Okay, so hello everyone. I hope you managed to join. So today we would start with the first topic on our agenda on the series of webinars. So you will get more info on that in the next section. But we are starting with a pretty hot topic and hot area, which is generative AI, and with proprietary versus open source models. So let me go straight into the presentation and introduce, uh, first of all, you, so our audience. So welcome everyone. I hope you all managed. If you didn't manage, if your colleagues are waiting somewhere, I don't know, in the queue or so, you can join in the middle as well. So please do so. And let's start as we are running out of time a little bit, and we have pretty packed agenda today. So what do we want to achieve actually by this presentation is that we would like to give you some hints how to differentiate that two types, and you will see that not only two types of models that are used in generative AI, and guide you in some decision making process. So you will also see some live example of that. And we are starting with traditional introduction. So welcome. And we will go through the definitions, a little bit of history of AI and Gen AI, and we will then jump straight into the definitions of actual model types. And we will also show you what is an actual number of models currently on the stage. And finally, we will go through the pretty practical exercise, which is a live decision-making process. And we will sum it up and give you a chance also to ask questions to all of us. So actually, we all can answer that questions. And at the end, please remember that questions you can ask anytime. You should have some chat on LinkedIn or other platforms. I'm not sure. So feel free to ask it if you would have time, and if there would be some important question, we will stop and try to answer it immediately. If not, we will try to come back at the end of the in the Q&A session. All right, so this is the plan for today. We have up to 45 minutes, so it shouldn't be too long for you as well. And I think we should start with us, because we are pretty new, I think, to some of you at least. So first of all, welcome on the stage my colleague, Bartek. So Bartek, can you say a few words about you?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Piotr. And I hope there is no echo here. So, hello, everyone. Nice to be here. My name is Bartosz Hajnacki. I'm a generative AI and DevOps specialist. And I think on a daily basis, I'm focusing on optimizing AI-driven solutions to make them more scalable and efficient. Also, I specialize in working with vector databases, retrieval augmented generation, also known as RAG, and AI ops automation. So my passion lies in building scalable and efficient AI applications. And in addition, I'm also a certified Azure Cloud Engineer. So as a result, I enjoy finding creative solutions for IT challenges, which are many in this industry.
Indeed. All right, so time for me. My name is Piotr Boguszewski. I'm broadcasting, by the way, from our lovely office in Warsaw. We are both, by the way, representing company DS Stream. DS is abbreviation from data science. So, by the way, personally, I'm passionate on Gen AI for some time. So I think last 2 years or so. But actually, in AI and analytics and data space, I'm for almost 20 years already. I was working with different types of companies in totally different roles. So I was starting and playing delivery roles, as well as leading and managing delivery, as well as building solutions for companies and providing some benefits at the end. Privately, I enjoy sports. So this is about me. You can find our profiles on LinkedIn as well. So visit if you like. All right, and moving on, we are, like I said, we are representing company DS Stream. So we are here in Warsaw. It was established 7 years ago, and like I said, this is the data science primary. So we are focused on data and analytics. Actually, now the data science has evolved into also Gen AI space. So that's why we are here today. Together with us, we have over 150 colleagues, professionals that are working in the field. So you can see them, in the back of us, but they are here providing value to our customers. Our customers are pretty big, well-known names. So I think that the biggest one out of that is Procter & Gamble. So you can see a lot of us there. But also, I think Allegro or Lawrence, this is very familiar names to you. What is important to underline is that we are not only providing the solutions in analytics space, so not only modeling, we are delivering everything around. So which means that we are also focusing on that data services, so data engineering, building pipelines, this kind of stuff, because everyone knows that data is a fuel, not only for traditional models, but also Gen AI as well. And we are also taking care about that front-end side, so which is actually building applications on top of that. So whether this is a custom application that you need all, adjust some existing applications, this is what we are doing. So also we are taking care about front-end side as well. And let's jump into the topic that we have on the agenda, and which is your prime concern today, which is, actually generative AI. I think that it's always, as this is the first webinar that we are starting as a series of webinars, it's always good to distinguish between what is AI and generative AI, because I think this is something that is misunderstood a little bit. So I will not go through all of the text here on the slide. You can read it later on, because the recording, by the way, would be shared as well, so you can find it on the internet somewhere, most probably YouTube. But just to go and just guide you. So you all hear AI everywhere, yeah, and currently I cannot even believe that there is any solution without AI, because everything has to be with AI. But AI has different flavors. So actually, if you think about AI and if you read the definition, you will see that artificial intelligence is actually on the top of everything. This is a field of study. So this is everything that supposed to be artificial, yeah, intelligence, but this is artificial intelligence. And underneath, there are things like machine learning and data science, so that we have abbreviation in our name of the company. And going down, we have neural nets, yes, so neural networks, which are actually much closer to how our brains behave. And the answer to that was actually deep learning. So those are actually neural nets with more layers, it's called. So more complicated. You can simplifying that, this is more complicated neural nets. And a sub of that domain is actually generative AI. So generative AI is a kind of subfield in deep learning, so in advanced neural networks. And today we will be focusing actually on generative AI. So you can see that also on the slide. But what is important here? We are today not focusing on this called discriminative AI. So everything that is around classification, some algorithms that help all of us for some time, for instance, to recommend movies on Netflix or whatever. Yeah, you can see recommendations engine. Of course, it can be nowadays smarter with Gen AI, but we want to focus but this is pretty discriminative, yeah. So you can actually classify that somehow. What we want to focus today, and this is the subject of today, is generative AI, which is exactly on this generative part. Yeah, so you cannot actually predict everything that it would generate, but there are some, also pros and cons. And pros is that definitely you can speak to that with natural language, and this unpredictable part is also a good side of that. So today we will focus on generative AI and what is the core of that, so models. And going deeper into generative AI, you can, I think all of us, somehow use on a daily basis, even maybe ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is, the top, the bottom level of that. If you go into the generative AI, you will see that the bigger, actually the higher level of that is our foundation models. So the models that are built on a large machine learning models that are built for multiple purposes. And a subdomain of that is around large language models, that are used for text generation. So this is language models. And for instance, ChatGPT is not a model name, is just a kind of application name that is available to all of us thanks to OpenAI. But the actual models that are underneath are called differently. So it could be the newest one, GPT-4o or O1. So today we will focus on large language models and the flavors. So you will see more on that in the next section on different kinds of that. So last piece of theory is that most probably this is surprising to some of you, but AI, if you go back into the definition that, AI is much broader term than any kind of Gen AI or even machine learning, was actually founded in 1956. So long time ago. So this is not that AI just happened when ChatGPT was released publicly to everyone. It's long time ago. And you can see on this timeline, of course, those are selected events, major events in the history, but you can see that even it has started a little bit earlier with Alan Turing, who was, trying to introduce the concept of the test where you could, the test was passed if you couldn't recognize what is behind the second side. So if you ask question and you got answer, you didn't know whether this is human or maybe machine. And this is the Turing test that was introduced even earlier. But next, there was a kind of traditional development that was, hidden most probably for most of us, including me. But the important name is Geoffrey Hinton, who actually got this year, so I think that was 2 weeks ago or so, got Nobel Prize for exactly, introducing some concepts in neural networks. So this is important name to be familiar. But actually, the breakthrough that or at least some of us know as professionals, happened in 2017 when Google, actually well-known company, introduced the transformer architecture. And then it started to actually speed up with incredible pace. So we can see that later on we have tons of announcement and more models. Yeah, of course, the most publicly known case is ChatGPT. So that was, I think, November 2022 when OpenAI introduced that and make it publicly available to everyone. Yes, so to all of us. Then everyone started to use that. Yeah. But then it didn't stop. Yeah, it was progressing with even increased pace. So you can see on the list that there are different types of models introduced, and different companies started to be a part of this race, including our Polish company called Speaklish that introduced in 2023 Bielik. So you can see that we are also a part of this race. The last, I think, achievement in this game is from OpenAI again, which is reasoning model called O1. And this is family of models, by the way. So this is end of the theory, I would say. But remember that this AI progress happens for like a half a decade at least, half of the century, sorry, at least. Yeah, and ChatGPT is not the beginning of that. So now going into the core topic of our webinar today. You can see the table, but let me start with the first one, which is open source. And I think everyone heard about open source and proprietary, sometimes called closed models. So you can compare that to, I would say, some battle that happened long time ago with Windows versus Linux. You most probably all remember that there was a kind of battle, open source or maybe something from Microsoft. Yeah, which would win? And at the end, we all know that both stayed. Most probably all of us know Microsoft, but a lot of people, especially programmers or somehow people more advanced technically, are using also some kind of form of Linux, including Android on your phones. Yeah, so it didn't disappear. And the same story is here with models. Yeah, so remember that we are talking about large language models, so LLMs. So starting with open source models. Those are models that are openly available to actually anyone with full access. So I don't want to go into too much details of the architecture, but remember that LLMs are not only the thing that you see at the end. There are some other, architecture layer or other layers that are not visible to you. But in open source, what is important is that you get full access. And the second important thing that is a kind of characteristic of open source is that they are free. So you can take it and use it. Examples you can see on the screen, Falcon or Bloom. And you can see, by the way, that Falcon has 180B. What does it mean? This is billion of parameters. So this is a kind of size or how big this model is or how much knowledge is packed inside of that. From the usage point of view, it means that that kind of open source models, you can just go to some portals and download it. Of course, if you know how to use it, you can even modify that. So you can change that neural networks underneath. You can adjust that. You can maybe add encryption. So you can go even to the data level. For instance, add encryption if it doesn't exist. There you can fine tune. You can do whatever you like almost. Yeah, of course there are some caveats of licensing models, but it's originally it's like open to be used, and you can redistribute. You can use it professionally in your commercial business. On the other hand, you have on the right-hand side, you have proprietary models, sometimes called closed ones. And those models are developed by companies, private companies, like OpenAI, I think the biggest, startup ever, the fastest growing startup definitely ever, maybe not the biggest, but the fastest growing. And I think currently the mostly known one. But also companies like, well-known like Google or Meta. So different companies are actually working and producing some models. Yeah, and maybe Meta is not the example, the best one, because they are producing also some other type of models. But Google definitely, yeah, Google, OpenAI, I think you can consider those ones as the best examples. And they are developing models that are high-end ones, so they have very good architecture, protection of the data, front-end layer, so application layer like ChatGPT that you can see and you can use. But on the other hand, there is some disadvantage because those models cannot be modified. So you get access to that through API. So technically speaking, there is some kind of interface that you can connect, but what is behind that interface, you cannot touch. Yeah, you can touch only what is allowed by the author of that. So OpenAI allows you for some kind of modification, maybe small fine tuning, but they wouldn't never allow you to actually fine tune modify the model itself, the base model. They also would limit maybe the user. And of course, there is another cons. There is price in most of the cases behind it. But more on that would be in the latest section by Biotech. And there is another a kind of middle layer between open source and proprietary models, which is called open weight models. And if I may speak openly, I see that even open weight models are right now more popular than pure open source, because pure open source seems to stayed a little bit in, at universities, at maybe some very dedicated audience. Why open weight models are developed with bigger pace and are more available to everyone. So it's a kind of hybrid. So if you can compare open source and proprietary, join that, then we have open weight models. And what's here important is that you get access to a part of the model. This is called weights. And weights are a part of parameters that each model was trained on, and you have access to that, which means that you can fine-tune that model. So you can take that models and adjust to your case. For instance, it can speak your language. It will know your if you have special sector of the business, maybe it was not trained on that data. You can add that data, fine-tune the model, and this model will be better than out-of-the-box one. So you can do it. But what you won't be able to do, still to touch that underneath layers. Yeah, so like architecture. So the same like in the proprietary models, you cannot. But remember, in open source, you could do it. In open white, you wouldn't do it. But in a lot of cases, it's more than enough. So this is a kind of compromise. Like I said, this is hybrid. And the examples of that are well-known. Llama from Meta. By the way, Facebook now, I think, is using that as well. So you will all use that soon, whether you want or not. Most probably you will need to use that. But there are some also European names on that list. So like company called Mistral AI from France introduced Mistral model, or our, like I said, Polish Prime, which is Bielik from Spicklish, yeah, in Polish called Spicklish. So this is the project, and I think with right now over 1,000 volunteers helping to build this Bielik model. All right. So this is the theory. We have that 3 types of models, and you can see on the next screen that we have only 2 types. And please forgive me for simplifying that, but actually closed source, so proprietary models, and open weight models, like I said, dominated that and that market. So you can see that this is only a snapshot from the last 2 years. So you can see that the progress in both areas is increasing actually. And what is important here is that open weight models are chasing closed source models. Still, the truth is that closed source models are in front of open weight models, and you shouldn't be surprised because there is some significant money behind that, and in many open weight projects there is a kind of volunteering behind. So this is a kind of race, but of course there are always pros and cons, and we are here to help you to somehow validate which one is better for you, for your case. So this is, a lot of names, so I would not bother you with that. You will see a lot of names today. So, okay, going into the differences, Bartek, can you introduce that?
Yes, sure, Piotr. Thanks. So yeah, as you can see, the slide is focusing on key differences between those 2 types of models. So as our title of our webinar suggests, we are talking about open source and proprietary language models, and why you might choose one over the other. And let's start with open source models, so those which are represented on the left. So I think the first key point is cost effectiveness in the type of the model. So open source models are freely available, meaning that you won't need to pay any licensing fees, or we are free to modify them. Maybe with exceptions to models like Llama that Piotr mentioned, which are like hybrid models. So just with open weights, but not everything is open to us. But in general, I think that those models are highly customizable and transparent. So that gives us flexibility to tweak them as much as we need to fit our specific use cases. And I think this transparency also allows developers to see under the hood everything which is going on, which makes debugging or customizing those models much easier. But however, with this freedom comes complexity, or as Master Yoda said, with great power comes great responsibility. Infrastructure management in this type of model can be challenging because deploying, optimizing, and maintaining these models require a lot of technical know-how and dedicated resources. And moving to the second type of model, so proprietary, which are shown on the right side. These models, like OpenAI's, which is probably most popular, OpenAI's GPT, are easy to integrate via API, so we can easily integrate them into probably any website, because it's just enough to take the API keys and do our stuff as backend developers. So that makes them an attractive choice if you are looking for a quick solution without worrying about infrastructure or deployment. And which is also important, proprietary models are typically at the state-of-the-art performance level, so providing sophisticated capabilities with minimal setup required. So as I mentioned, API key is just enough. However, this convenience comes at the price. Ongoing usage fees are involved, so which can add up depending on the number of queries or calls that we are making to the model. Also, customization is limited because we don't have free choice as when comparing to open source. there is often a degree of vendor lock-in. So that is often happening to companies which are developing those models. So we are struggling to choose a particular model because we are worrying about to be vendor lock-in. So, for example, if there is an outage of OpenAI SART or Anthropic or any other model provider, there is a risk that our project will also stop. And I think that happened a couple of times, and probably one of the most known was in November last year, when it was almost the whole day when OpenAI API were not working, and I think 70 or 80% of AI startups just stopped their work. So it's often happening. So the quick, I think to summarize this, the key question to ask ourselves is, what are our priorities? So if we have a capable technical team, and we want to have a full control over the model, I think the open source is a solution for us. It might be right fit in, but if we need a reliable, ready-to-use model, just with API key, which is enough to connect to ChatGPT or OpenAI API, I think this should be our choice, because with minimal hassle you can handle those associated costs, and with this type of solution, proprietary models might be the better option.
Yeah, maybe just to add something important, because it sounds a little bit, scary that API can be closed for one day, but there are some ways how to mitigate that risk with higher SLA using, for instance, cloud vendors. Yes, Bartek will talk about that a little bit later on. However, at the end, we are not here to position that one is better over the other. Actually, we are here to help you. So we are not promoting any of that. It has to be suitable for your case. Yeah. So just remember that there are really different aspects that you need to take into consideration. All right. So a little bit of guidance to you on how to move on and how to explore it a bit more, because I showed you tons of models, or actually a few names, but you will see now a little bit more. So let me switch, and I hope you will be able to see my screen still. But there are some pages, some web pages or platforms that helps you to guide through that complexity and tons of numbers of models. So first of all is chatbot arena. So most probably a lot of you explored that already, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview of a few sites that are worth to at least explore. So this is the mostly known one that ranks different models. So you can see that there are different models, and here in the license column, you can see that there is a lot of proprietary. So I would say that our top 10 definitely is proprietary. The first one that is not proprietary is Llama. So you can see that this is 9th position, but this is actually placed maybe something like a 12. So this is open weight model under the license of Llama, so dedicated type of license. But you see that this is what I showed you on the chart. This is true also here. But you can go here and explore, all of that models here. And the important thing is that here the assessment is made on so-called arena score. So people, so you can be also a part of that. You will be asked for a question. So just you will give your prompt and see two answers, side by side. And you will not know which model is behind that. You will just select which one is better for you. And based on that, there is assessment, which one won, and some kind of assessment of scoring, which is a bit closer to what is done in the chess. And then you see the score. So at the end, the message is that higher score, better for users. So just feel free to explore. You can see that a lot of OpenAI here. The second one that I wanted to show you is another one, a leaderboard, which is only for open models. Let's say not only, but absolute majority are open models. So this is a little bit more complicated. You can see here average and different, type of tests. So those are tests, and you can, of course, explore the internet and see the definition of that. But this is the second one. So for open source, if you would like to have some more deep dive into open source world, then this is the second site. And by the way, QR codes that I will display again, you can take a screenshot and explore later on. That would guide you to that site that I'm reviewing now. And of course, tons of filters here. So this is a little bit more complicated because this is open source. And there is the most known site called Hugging Face. This is platform actually as well. You can see that there are models, but there are also data sets. So that can be used for training or for fine tuning of the models and all tons of posts, docs, and so on. This is the most popular, absolutely, right now platform. But you can see also models here. So what is important here that there are over 400K models here. So unbelievable number of that. And if I would go there, you can see that there are tons of, as well as tons of filters, and you can explore. For instance, you can go to NVIDIA Llama Nemotron model. You can go here. You can see how it was fine-tuned, or this model is a kind of third layer, and you can even download that. Yeah, so there are files, versions, community. So this is full. Yeah, you have here also licenses as well, so you can explore that as well. So Hugging Face is definitely a good choice if you want to explore more. And the last one that I wanted to show you is that there is a site. There are tons of sites actually, but one of my favorite ones is that Artificial Analysis AI is that a kind of independent analysis site. So we can see here as well a little bit simplified comparison of different models. So similar to Chatbot Arena, but this time this is comparison by this company. And you can also, so you can see quality, speed, price as well. So we can see also some aspects of the pricing that Bartek just spoke about. You can see how quality versus price looks like, and of course, O1, which is the most advanced one, is unsurprisingly here on the top right. Quality and speed and so on, and you can explore different kind of models and see whether that is suitable for you. So if you would like to explore more on that, I encourage you to exactly visit that site, and you can see that there is much more statistics that you can explore against, especially the most popular ones. All right, so those are the QR codes. So take a screenshot. I will pause for 5 seconds. Anyway, there would be recording later on, so you can do it. And just to sum up this section and go into the decision-making process, on the leaderboard that I showed you, so Chatbot Arena, you most probably notice that the majority are proprietary models, so 35 to against 20 open source. And the prime company for proprietary is unsurprisingly OpenAI. The second one is Google, so also well-known company, but there is Anthropic on the third place. The most known are the biggest number of models published on from other so-called open white or open source models. This is coming from Meta. So this company is introduced a lot of models, but you can see also Chinese models from Alibaba as well. Pretty good ones. All right. So now I think the core of that. So case study. Bartek, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Piotr. So yeah, I can definitely agree that especially Hugging Face is the best friend of an AI developer. Yeah, but moving forward into our case study. So let me introduce it. So the case study that will help us to understand why choosing the right language model is important. So in our case, the company in focus is a mid-sized e-commerce business specializing in fashion and apparel, serving customers across different countries. So currently, they have a limited customer support team, which means that they are struggling to keep up with the increasing volume of customer requests, especially during peak times like holidays or sales events. Which are going to happen.
Additionally, you are 10th in row, yeah. That's most common.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Wait 5 minutes.
Additionally, the business faces challenges during these peak sales periods when the influx of customers leads to delayed responses. And the company also places a high emphasis on personalized customer experience as the key differentiator in highly competitive e-commerce landscape. So this is where the need of AI-powered customer service chatbot comes into play. And the company is not interested in using old-fashioned all of the chatbots that we know from the past. So the rule-based chatbots that were commonly used in the past. Instead, they are seeking to find a more sophisticated solution, which is based on newer AI technology, so perfectly state-of-the-art model. that can understand and respond to customer inquiries in a dynamic and context-aware manner. And company wants also a solution which can reduce the workload on their customer support team. So improve response times and provide 24/7 support, which is not available with human intervention, to handle those routine questions such as order status, inquiries, or return policies. I think it's majority of questions which humans on the support team can be asked. So the whole goal of the project to create this chatbot is to ensure that the customer queries are handled efficiently, improving the overall customer satisfaction and reducing the burden of human agents. And also the key goal for this chatbot project include enhancing the customer experience by providing faster and more consistent responses. So ultimately increasing customer satisfaction and engagement as a result. Additionally, they want to free up their human agents to focus on more complex issues that require a personal touch. So more complex tasks should be sent to human agent, but those less important could be handled by this AI chatbot. And moreover, they are looking for a scalable solution that can grow alongside the company, effectively handling increasing volume of inquiries from customers as the business expands, all while maintaining high service quality. So I think there is a lot, but there is definitely a room to choose between those two options.
So simply saying they are looking for something more advanced than exists so far. So,
Yeah, probably.
simple
They try
chatbot.
to do their best to find anything useful.
All right.
Okay, we are moving forward. So as I mentioned, we are still focusing on the same case study, but among all of those possible solutions, we find the most frequent choices often fall into two categories. So open source models such as Llama or Mistral, the model that Piotr mentioned, there is a logo next to this beautiful Llama. It's logo of Mistral, a large language model. And proprietary models like GPT from OpenAI or Claude from Anthropic. Piotr also mentioned Gemini from Google. I think it's another option. And open source models like Llama or Mistral gives us more flexibility and control, especially if we have technical expertise to fine-tune those models and manage infrastructure, because it could be complicated. And on the other hand, proprietary models like GPT or Claude or Google provide state-of-the-art performance. So we don't have to maintain all of those infrastructure, just we are receiving the best state-of-the-art performance from those models. And ease of use, because as I mentioned, we are using API-based integrations that simplify the whole process of deployment. And for our project, we are comparing both of these paths to determine which suits our needs, considering factors like cost, customizability, ease of deployment, and long-term viability. So as we proceed, we will see how each of these models measures up for the specific use case. We will see this later.
So side comment, I'm always wondering how that names come to reality. Sometimes we have animals, sometimes weird names or bee or whatever. It's always curiosity from my end.
Okay, so our next slide, it's decision tree. So we are focusing on determination which type of language model is best suited for our chatbot project. So I think we can go step by step. So it's our decision tree based for this particular project. So the first question that we are asking is whether sensitive data is involved. And in our case, since I mentioned that we are dealing with sensitive customer data, because this chatbot is going to be a support for our human team, but we are definitely going with customers' data. So one of the reasons we choose open source LLM here, it's because it allows us to have full control over data processing and storage. And by hosting the solution on our own infrastructure, I think we can ensure that sensitive information is handled in a way that aligns with our company privacy policies and regulatory requirements, especially in the European Union. And this approach gives us more flexibility compared to proprietary models, so where the data is often processed externally by third-party providers like Cloud from Azure or Google or any other services. Of course, in terms of using proprietary models, we can use data anonymization techniques to protect sensitive information before it's processed by the model. But I think in our specific case, we can answer this question as yes. So sensitive data is involved because we are dealing with customer data. So the next question, I think we can move forward. Yes, exactly. Do you need extensive customization? And for this particular project, the answer is no. So we need some level of customization, but it does not have to be highly specialized. Which means that we still proceed with either option, but both open source and proprietary models offer enough flexibility for the level of customization that we need. Open source models allows us to modify the model directly to fit our use cases, while proprietary models often have built-in tools for customization that are easy to use, making both options viable for our requirements. But in our case, I think the answer is also no, because we are not focusing to still improving the model because just OpenAI released a new model which is better than the previous one. If our solution suits for us well, I think we don't need to immediately switch to another model. So I think in this case, our answer should be no, because we need more stable solution rather than extensive customization. Yeah, the next question, it's about deployment. This is very important because application is changing during the time. We have new features. Of course, those supports tickets also are going to be different. But I think in terms of this project, the answer is no, because we have enough time to plan and implement the solution carefully, because we don't want to disrupt the customer experience because we are implementing something different. So we don't need actually to rapid deployment that be present, which proprietary model might offer. Next question is one but last. Is lower upfront costs more important? And I think in terms of cost, it's the most important when selecting the right model for us. Also, in our case, the answer is no, because we are more concerned with keeping the overall long-term costs manageable rather than just minimizing initial expenses. So if we are able to handle those costs, I think open source model are also better choice. And the last question, I think it's similar to the question related to customization, but maybe from different angle. If we need cutting edge performance easily. So if the answer is no, like in our case, probably, we are okay with solid, well-performing solution, which could be customized in time, but in general, we don't need those customization. So the answer here, we have two options. So the first, as you, Piotr, you can click because we have click on the presentation because those two options should be present. Yeah. This final question reveals the solution for our project. So if we really need this cutting edge performance, so state-of-the-art models, we can go with proprietary, and if not, open source. And I think in terms of our project, answer should be no, because as I mentioned previously, we don't want to switch to the new model, latest one, let's say, whenever OpenAI or Google or Anthropic just gives us the new possibility. So I think in terms of those current models, in terms of open source, I think those models are good enough to just stick with, for example, Llama 3 for a longer period of time, and this won't disrupt customer satisfaction. So yeah, I think we can summarize this with just open source LLM as our choice in this context.
So one thing maybe just to underline here is that this is a kind of simplified view, because actually the dimensions is, a little bit more, because even if you take open source, you need to validate whether that licensing model, exactly this is like I showed you on the screen, Llama has some dedicated licensing model, this is open weight model. So there are some limitations, you have to know it. So every time you need to, check carefully what the licensing allows you and what not. So this is something that we take into consideration when selecting the model. So this is a little bit simplified view, but there are more dimensions of that. But in this case, like Bartek said, yeah, open source is good enough. Yeah, remember that it doesn't have to be the best; it has to be good enough and in a reasonable price. All right, Bartek, because we are running out of time, so unfortunately we need to speed up.
Yeah. Okay. So last on my part. So if you want to do some kind of decision like we did with our use case with this e-commerce platform, there is some kind of template that can serve for you as template for making similar decisions in the future. So it will be visible for a while. You can take a screenshot, and of course, if you want to go through these questions and make your decision on your own, you can use this as a template. Of course, it's not let's say universal template. This could be modified by you to suit your needs. Yeah.
All right, so it's time to wrap up. I know that this is very short and you may have some more questions on that decision tree, for instance, so we encourage you to ask that questions now or even later on. You can reach us out on the webpage or LinkedIn, whatever. But just to sum up and very shortly, remember that there are three types of models. Pretty commonly, you will hear only closed or open source. And open source, it means that in a wide sense, this is open weight as well. Remember that there is licensing behind, so you need to really read it carefully. Remember that it's changing over the time, so it doesn't mean that it would stay forever. And remember that choosing the right model depends on many factors, not only the ones that we showed you on the screen. And really, you need to be up to date. Yeah. So remember that this is very rapidly growing area. So even us, we are spending tons of time to be up to date with that. So you should have someone who is up to date or do it yourself. Yeah. This is up to you. And remember that this is not only the model. Yeah, we are showing you a piece of solution, but actually, this chatbot would mean that you have to feed the data. So you need to provide that data in a good form, because better data, better output. And you have to also take care about this front end size. Yeah, so you have to build some front end that would be useful for your end users. Yeah, so remember that model is just the most important, maybe like a brain, but this is not the full body. And I think there are some questions on the chat, so I think it would be good to display some of them on the screen. If you have any questions, feel free to raise it now. Okay, so let's have the first one. I see I have some preview. All right, so questions are coming. All right, so we have 3 questions. I think the most polite way would be to start from the beginning, so from Rafał. So Rafał asks a question, what do you think about the marketplace for programmers in relation to generative AI in the forthcoming future? Do you believe that in the next 5-10 years, most companies, except maybe the biggest ones, will focus on using ready-to-use solutions at most? I think it's something cut out. Personalizing them, or will there be business cases to develop maybe smaller models on a smaller scale? Just wondering about how much space there will be for generative AI programmers. Not sure if there is such a term yet. I would say pretty complicated question. A few dimensions here that I noticed. So, Bartek, would you like to take at least one of that? So maybe, we are predicting the future. So take your crystal ball and try to answer what would happen in 5-10 years. So I don't know what is your opinion here, but, for me, it's like, it's hard to predict. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think future is totally unpredictable. So if our webinar is going to be repeated in the upcoming year, probably we're going to talk about totally different solutions. Yeah, but I think in general, IT projects varies to each other. So there also should be projects which could be very general in terms that AI agents or either AI agents or general solutions based on AI tools which are will be able to do those types of projects without human intervention. But in IT, I can observe a lot of very sophisticated, very customized projects which are very difficult to automate. And to give you an example, I think GitHub Copilot or any other tool which could be used as a guidance for developers. Those models are great. Those tools are great to help developers which are writing, for example, Python or JavaScript code. But if you are writing something in Rust, those models are struggling. So it's just enough to stick with the, let's say, imaginary project which is written in Rust, and you want to use some kind of AI agent or AI tool, and this tool is going to struggle to resolve and to make this project ready. So I think still in terms of, for sure, 5 years, I'm not very sure what is going to be in the perspective of 10 years, but in terms of 5, I think similar situation should be similar. So still there is a need to human touch.
I think so, and maybe just to give a chance to answer also other questions, because that there were a few sub questions, I would say. So whether the marketplace, like maybe Hugging Face, would exist, I think we both agree that yes, something like that would exist, because there would be still space for open source, open weight, and proprietary models. So I think yes, 5-10 years. By the way, this is long future. It might happen. Tons of things like agents would be everywhere. This is something that is, I think, currently on the high, but no one knows whether super intelligence wouldn't come in this time frame. So we'll see. That might change the future totally. And whether there would be a space for smaller models, I think yes. Currently, even we see that trend that, for instance, on edge devices, even on your phones, like upcoming or last released iPhone, there would be some intelligence inside based on artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence. So there is a space for exactly this smaller model and specific cases. Yeah, you need to remember that you need to adjust the solution for your need. Yeah, and in this case, this is different type of models. And the last thing that I noticed on this question is that whether there would be rather AI programmers, generative AI programmers. Yes, I think it's even currently one of the top trending positions. Yeah, so AI developers, or sometimes called a little bit differently. Yes, there is a space, and it's very rapidly growing area in terms of HR. So, Bartek, maybe moving on to the second question. Given the project-related experience in AI, which types of models are implemented most often and why? Which type of can be increased more, can increase own popularity in future?
And personally, I see a trend that people and IT projects are sticking with those proprietary models because of the just because of the those models are easier to maintain, easier to integrate with our solutions which are present, so existing IT projects. So I think the situation in the future should be similar. Of course, I see the space for open source models, but for the newer projects like IT/AI startups, I think proprietary is the choice for those because of the those are easier to use than open source models.
And maybe continuing that type of questions, we have question from Marta on actually maybe summing it up on the future, whether open source or open weight would win against proprietary models. So no one knows, maybe someone, but it seems that as of now, still, the prime in this race is coming from proprietary. Simply saying, there is, a lot of business there, a lot of money behind that. So you have to remember that if you add more stuff, add better quality data, and you make business on top of that, most probably your focus would be higher, and you would develop higher end quality models at the end. But it might happen that someone would figure out a better way how to develop models from the open source community, because there are much more people actually being a part of that community than in proprietary world. And maybe they would develop something, someone. But as of now, it seems that there is lower probability for that. But it might happen, no one knows. As of now, the state is that proprietary wins, but it doesn't mean that open source or open weight is worse. All right, two last questions. So we have Bartek asking, in your opinion, is the use of API providers such Azure justified given the high costs of such solutions? I even showed that on one of the analysts' report that there is a cost, and cost is huge. So is there any justification for that? What do you think, Bartek?
I think definitely there is, and for two reasons, basically. The first one, it's the thing that I mentioned previously, so the OpenAI outage. So whenever there is a situation when OpenAI APIs are not working, and if we have those endpoints on cloud as Azure, we have SLA, for example, of 99% of availability. So that's the first reason. And the second one is data privacy. So even though if we are using API from OpenAI directly, they are ensuring some kind of privacy. Using Azure strengthens this data privacy, so our data is more secure. But it's definitely more expensive than using directly API from OpenAI.
Yeah, there is also always some cons. Yeah, but there is pros definitely. So if you have such need for SLA, then it's sometimes worth to pay for that. Simply saying, but you have to calculate. Yeah, ROI. The last question: can open source AI models be fine tuned? Okay, and maybe just for the specific roles. Yeah, so the question is pretty okay. Here we have subject like mathematics. So yeah, we have API Bartek. Yeah, we have from OpenAI. You can also even I think this month. Yeah, so the promotion ends this month. But you have I don't know 1 million tokens a day to fine tune models. Yeah, so this is state of now until end of the month. So what do you think? Yeah, is it only OpenAI or this is common practice?
I think it's a common practice, and I saw a lot of tutorials which are present the fine tuning of, for example, Llama models, and there are a lot of Python libraries like Unslot which are allowing us to do fine tuning. So yeah, I think it's totally possible even with those open source models.
Yeah, and like I said, if you would like to experience that, just go to OpenAI and explore maybe the newest models from this company. 1 million tokens for free until end of month, if I remember correctly. All right, I think that's it. So yes, time for question. If you would have any questions still, feel free to contact us. So you will see some details on the next slide. Just to review you some secrets, so sneak preview of what would happen next. So next month, like I said, this is our first webinar, but we are planning to continue with that. And the next one, I think, would be pretty interesting. I would have a pleasure to have a discussion with one of our colleagues, pretty well known in the data science world, Jakub Dubowik, who we will be speaking about actually two words. Yeah, so machine learning, like I showed you on the first screen, as one of the areas in AI versus generative AI. So very interesting topic, enemies of friends. So join us at November 20th at 4 p.m. So around 1 month from now. And remember that still, if you have professional needs, like you would like to have develop something, remember that we are here as a company. The stream is here, so we are providing you services not only in modeling, and we have a lot of competencies also in traditional machine learning, but also with the data or with front end around that. Remember that we are providing full end-to-end service around data and analytics. All right, you have QR code, so you can join us. If not, you will be able to find us on LinkedIn as well. All right, so Bartek, thank you very much for your participation, active participation here, and sharing your thoughts. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much, our audience, for staying with us 1 hour. So long time, I know. So I hope that you spend that time with pleasure and you got something for you. Feel free to contact us. And what I can wish to all of us is a great evening or whatever time is that great day, rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piotr. It was a pleasure for me to be here.